afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Brainy Boomer Lecture Series. We're so very happy that you've all joined us today. We would like to begin by first acknowledging that the McGill University Research Center for Studies in Aging is located and our work is done on unceded Indigenous lands. The Kanien'kehá:ka Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather today. Tiohtià:ke, commonly known as Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many Indigenous peoples. Today, it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples we serve within the Montreal community. In 2007, the McGill University Research Center for Studies in Aging, or the MCSA Education Committee, started the Brainy Boomer Lecture Series in order to suggest practical steps to both improve and maintain brain health, as well as to promote healthy lifestyle choices amongst the most populous generation in history. The MCSA Education Committee, which was founded in 1996, has three main objectives: identifying education needs of healthcare providers, seniors, caregivers, and the public, and to develop responses to meet some of their needs, to enhance the positive image of the aging process by addressing stereotypes and myths about aging, and finally, the dissemination of research on aging. Today's event is in collaboration with the Italian-Canadian Community Services of Quebec. Our presenter today is Lingbo Li, a fourth-year dietetics student at McGill University, who is looking forward to sharing some ideas about affordable holiday meals. Before continuing, we would like to remind you to please mute your microphone on Zoom, and that if you have any questions, you can either write them down in the chat box on Zoom, or you're welcome to unmute yourself at the end of the presentation. And now I'd like to invite Lingbo to start her presentation.
Thank you, Caitlin, for all the introduction. So first, let me thank you for participating in today's presentation. My name is Lingbo Li. I'm today's presenter, and we'll be discussing about the topic of celebrating the holidays with nutritious and affordable food. There will be 3 recipe demonstrations throughout the presentation. I hope you will enjoy this workshop and bring some interesting and helpful tips back to your daily living and prepare you well for the upcoming holidays. So it started to snow outside, not today. Today is the good weather, and it's almost the holiday season. We have many different ways to celebrate holidays, and food is an important part of our holiday traditions. Myself, I come from China, and in my family, we usually celebrate New Year's Eve with a bowl of brown sugar soup, like the picture, with glutinous rice balls. It's a symbol of family reunion, as the pronunciation of this dessert is similar as of the pronunciation of family reunion in Mandarin. Eating this bowl of dessert indicates that in the upcoming New Year, everyone will still gather together and celebrate their holidays with the whole family. So it's December, maybe you're preparing well to celebrate Christmas, Natale, or Hanukkah, or other great festivals that will take place in the upcoming December. As I shared my holiday traditions with the food previously, do you want to share with us your holiday traditions? Please feel free to put the answers in the chat box, or if you feel it better, you can say it out loud. Any interesting holiday traditions?
Yes.
Oh, I see in the chat box Swedish meatballs and potatoes. That sounds really nice.
Yeah. Anyone else? Oh, we have another.
Oysters.
Yeah,
wow.
Oysters.
That's a very unique one. Anyone else would like to share their holiday traditions? Okay, you can still share it in the chat box, and we can see what else we have. So something special about this holiday season is that it might be more stressful compared to usual. This is a comic taken by an editorial cartoonist, Jerry King, to demonstrate the current situation of the past Thanksgiving, which brings our concern to the food prices. As in the picture, it describes the situation as, thanks to the price of groceries, now there's a cover charge to get into this year's family Thanksgiving dinner. If you have ever been to a grocery store and have seen the prices, you would know it's not just a comic. It is real that food prices have been increasing since the pandemic in 2020. So actually, not only in Canada, but food prices are increasing worldwide. Here are just some recent news which were concerning about the overall inflation of the food prices that I have read. So you can see there's a wide different range of the news. You can see from CBC News, Global News, and BBC News. I see more people are posting their holiday traditions in chat box. So the previous slide is more of a general perspective of the issue. Now let's take a closer look at what is happening in Canada. So according to Statistics Canada, food prices have been increasing by 11% this year in 2022, which is the stats coming from October. So here I have 5 different food groups, which are baked goods, fruits, vegetables, dairy products, and meat. Which different categories of food do you think have increased the most annually? So you can still pull out your answers in the chat box. Yeah, I see someone mentioned meat. Veggies. Yeah, it's sometimes really hard to get some fresh produce during the winter time. Anyone else would take a guess? Guess is not a part of the food, but yeah, the price is increasing. But luckily now we have a bit of relief. The price was ceasing to increase. Anyone else want to take a guess?
Yeah, someone here said
Veggies.
milk. Yeah, milk and veggies. Yeah.
Milk. Yeah. It could be hard to get the veggies right at the price that we want. Okay, so sorry for that sound. Okay, let's review our answers. So actually, everything has been increasing, but baked goods, vegetables, and dairy products have been increasing more than 10%. And that's the highest for the baked goods. It's almost 15% of increase. And this rate of increase is the highest since 1981. Climate change, labor shortage, difficulty in transportation, and price inflation are all contributing factors to this issue. So after knowing that food prices have been increasing rapidly this year, you might have this question: is it still possible to eat a healthy meal, just like the healthy balanced plate demonstrated by Canada Food Guide, which is on the left side? Anyone want to share their answers? Do you think it's still possible to eat a healthy balanced plate? Yeah, we all hope so. Yes, for sure. with planning. Yeah. There's for us. I see someone in the chat box mentioning smaller portions. It's better for the house anyway. Okay. That's different answers. So my answers will be yes, it's still possible to eat a healthy balanced plate. And we prepared today's workshop to provide you with interesting and helpful budget shopping tips during the holiday season. Yeah, make do with whatever is available. That's a nice idea. Okay, so today's workshop will be providing you with tips from 3 different stages: before, after, and during grocery shopping, with 3 different concepts: plan, compare, and share. And there will be 3 recipe demonstrations throughout the presentation. So we start by planning our groceries before we shop. Look for whatever is on sale. Yeah, that's a good strategy. The first question you can ask yourself before you shop is, who does the shopping? Is that you or someone else? Or you're with someone else to do the grocery shopping? So how do you do the grocery shopping while you're at home? You can share your answers in the chat box. Okay, shopping for one might be a bit harder compared to shopping for a family. Okay. Yeah, two of us. I see the answer. So that's corresponding with our recommendations. So try shopping with someone else, such as a friend or a relative or a family member. It can help you to share the cost by buying in bulky items, and you can split the amount of the items according to the number of people. And you can enjoy more varieties according to that, since you're splitting amount and you're not having everything for only one people. Eating for one, it could be a bit harder to enjoy more variety. But if you're sharing with someone else, it's a good way to improve your overall diet variety. And it's a good chance to spend some time with a friend. It's also a good activity to reduce social isolation. Grabbing ingredients on a need basis. Yeah. Okay. The next question we can ask ourselves is, where do you find the best deals? So here I have a list of different grocery stores here, and there are many various grocery supermarkets in Quebec, so such as the Provigo, Walmart, IGA, Super C. So they usually provide us with a large variety of the different foods. You can almost find everything at one place, so you can save the time not traveling back and forth. But price and quality is not always the best. So I would like to ask you, among the stores that we have on this slide, where do you usually find the best deals? I see someone mentioning Maxi, but not for meat and fish. Sami fruit. Ooh, that's somewhere special. Costco to buy in bulk. Yeah, but it also charges you a cover fee, like the membership fee to get into Costco. Costco, yeah, that's a popular answer. Yeah, proximity is an important variable for me. Yeah, that's a good point. We also want to consider the convenience of the stores. Ooh, try to buy local. That's a good idea. So based on our answers and also some we heard from the news online. So usually people will consider Walmart, Maxi, and Super C for the better deals, as they usually provide you with a bulky with buying in bulk. They have the bulky items. So one of our recommendations will be shop for sales and deals, which you might already have planned in your mind that you usually do. We can compare the flyers from the different stores. So using a flyer application such as Freebie and Flip, which is the most common ones we use nowadays, to compare the different prices of a similar product among the different stores, so that it will enable you to go for more affordable stores and shop for what's featured and what's on sale. And another idea, which is corresponding to the Canada Food Guide, is to shop for what's featured, and it's for focusing more on the plant-based foods, as usually plant-based food are easier to store and they're usually less expensive compared to the animal produce. You can try have a meatless Friday or something like a well-organized plant-based meal to make something special throughout the week. That could be some examples of beans, lentils, or other legumes. And stock up on the non-perishables when they're on sale. So you can stock up on the pulses, the spices, or the grains. And there will be more applications for you to use to look for the discounted food. We have here Too Good To Go and Flash Food. There are a bit difference between the two applications. So for Flash Food, we are more of focusing on the discounted groceries from the grocery stores. And Too Good To Go is more of you're looking for the food, discounted food from the restaurants. But there are good resource websites that you can use. And the last but not the least, making a grocery list so that you will know what you will need and knowing well what you have already on hand. So besides the grocery stores, I already see someone mentioning in the chat box, visit your local farmers market. That's a good place to get seasonal local produce with a better price for a similar quality. So it's the only thing is now we are in winter, and in Quebec we don't really have much of the seasonal produce during winter season. However, which is good, we have the Jean Talon and Atwater markets also have the inside sections that we can still go to visit during the winter. They even have some holiday markets such as the Marché de Noël de Jean Talon. You can go visit and have some holiday vibe. There are more activities related to holiday during December. You can check out the website of Marché Public. They have everything, the information there. And if you're wondering where can I find the most reachable grocery stores, you can find them online. You can search just for farmers markets on the Google map and you will get the results. So after knowing where to buy your food and planning on what to buy, it would be helpful if we can plan our meals ahead. So which is also mentioned in the chat box. This brings us back to the idea of meal planning, which you might already seen before. It is the process of deciding on the meals in advance, using your schedule, using your food preferences, what's on hand, seasonal produce, and sales items as a guide. So you can get different recipe ideas based on the featured items from the various resource websites, such as Cook Inspiration, SOS Cuisine, unlockfood.ca, Budget Bites. They're all good resource websites that will provide you with nutritious and affordable recipe ideas, and so that it can guide you to decide what to cook after shopping. If you're okay, I have here a screenshot of if I'm searching for chicken recipes on Budget Bites, so you can see how it works. It will provide you with different recipes, and even a cost per recipe and a cost proportion on the page. If you're looking for more plant-based recipe ideas, those websites will also provide you with what you need. So actually, we prepare some great recipes that are good in price, nutritious, and delicious for you to practice at home. As well, we can share them. We can share them with our friends and relatives, as it's a nourishing and affordable gift for the holiday season. You can use your stocked lentils to make this recipe. It is easy to store and versatile. There are many different combinations of the soup mixes in a gift jar. You can search for them and make your unique version based on what you have on hand. So here, what we have is a coconut curry soup in a gift jar. And let's take a look at how to make this recipe. There will be two separate steps in this recipe. The first step is you're building your gift jar, putting everything combined in the jar, and you can stock the jar for later on use, or share it as a gift with your friends or relatives. So the first part is to assemble the soup mix. You want to make sure your hands and the jar are both clean, and you want to layer the ingredients according to the order on the ingredient list, so that they make a nice layering and a separation of the colors. You see here, I used 2 cubes of the bouillon cubes, but you only need 1. It's good enough to provide you enough flavors. So after combining everything in the jar, you want to seal up your jar tightly and give it a nice decoration with the labels and the ribbons. You can make it a pretty gift to share with someone else. And for cooking the soup, you just need 5 cups of water in a can of light coconut milk. You want to combine all your ingredients in a large saucepan. So fun fact, coconut milk is solid under winter room temperature. You want to give it a nice stir to combine with the other ingredients. So after you putting everything together, you turn on high heat to bring the soup to a boil. After the soup is boiled, you turn to a lower heat and simmer for 15 to 20 minutes until the lentils are ready and tender. So you take out the chili and you can now serve your soup with some freshly chopped cilantro and lemon juice. It's a nice and nourishing dish you can enjoy during the winter time, and I was as well sharing it in a holiday meal. Yeah, you will get your recipes in a recipe handout. It will be sent to you later. Everything, including the ingredient list and the details, will be provided. So after seeing how to make this meal, the main ingredients of this recipe are lentils. Which food group do you think it belongs to according to the Canada Food Guide, which is on the left side? You can feel free to pull out your answers in the chat box. So which part, the protein food, the vegetables and fruits, and the beverage, or the whole grain foods, which part do you think it belongs to according to our balance plate? I see someone mentioning whole grain foods. Protein. Anyone else would like to share their answers? Whole grain. Vegetables. Okay, let me reveal the answers for you. So actually, it's a protein part of the dish, as lentils are a good source of protein. So what can you do to add to the soup to make it a more balanced meal? What do you want to add to the soup to make it a more balanced meal? You can put the answers in the chat box. A tomato, vegetables. Yeah, have a carb on side. That's a great idea. Carrots. Carrots will bring a good flavor to the soup. An apple. Yeah, those are all good ideas. Okay. So those are all, in the chat box, we have already a variety of the different answers, and they are all good ideas. So you can add some fruits and some vegetables to the soup to make it more, having more flavors and bring more nutrients to you. And you can also add in some extra proteins if you are concerning about your protein intake. You can add in some cooked chicken or cooked beans to make it a nicer meditation and gratitude. Okay, that's a great answer. So now let's take a closer look at the nutritional fact table and the cost of this recipe. So for each serving of the soup, it's a cup of the soup, and each recipe will provide you with 6 servings. So the cost per serving as a gift without the coconut milk is $0.8. And if you are adding the coconut milk to cook it as a soup, the cost will come up to $1.1. Still not very expensive. So what do you think it's a nutritional highlight of this recipe from reading the food label on the left side? So remembering 5% is a little and 15% is a lot. It's a nourishing and inexpensive plant-based dish. Fiber, yeah, that's a great point. It's containing 8 grams of dietary fiber. Anyone else would like to share with us their answers?
There's a lot of iron there too, 20%, 9 grams.
Yeah, it's having a lot of iron. Too much salt? Yeah, 10% of the sodium content.
And no
Yeah,
sugar.
10% according to the daily value, it's still not a lot. But if you're concerning about the sodium content, it could be something you want to pay attention to. Yeah. Is that high potassium compared to the other recipes? What do you think?
It's good.
It's good. Okay, so now let's review our answers. All high iron, both of which would be good. Yeah. So it's a nourishing and inexpensive plant-based dish with a good amount of protein, dietary fiber, and iron. So for the potassium content, it's not that high, but you can still pair it with some fruits and vegetables to make it even higher. And it's having slightly higher saturated fat content, actually. It's mainly from the coconut milk. But as we are pairing it as a part of the healthy balanced plate, pairing it as a healthy balanced plate, we are adding some fruits and vegetables according to what we have previously. So the saturated fat content could not be a huge concern at this moment. So now we have the discussion. What are the substitutions for this recipe? If you're having certain concerns, over certain nutrients.
What can you use besides coconut milk? Because I'm a bit
Yeah, you might be a bit concerned over the saturated fat content.
yeah, because it gives me diarrhea.
Okay, so actually you can substitute it with some milk. It will also provide a good flavor of the soup, but it's giving you less content of the saturated fat.
Or another option is just to use the broth. Maybe instead of water, you can maybe use a little bit more bouillon, or just make it as is without the coconut milk.
Yeah. But maybe that won't give you the thickness.
You want to have the thickness of the soup?
You'd have to let it cook down a little bit more, maybe use a little less water. So yeah, it's experimentation. Otherwise, you can use a little bit of unsweetened oat milk or something along those lines. So yeah, the coconut milk it can be substituted with other things.
The thickness of the taste. Oh, homemade broth instead of a cube. Yeah, actually the vegetable bouillon cubes are a bit higher in the sodium content, and you can use a homemade broth instead of the cubes to provide more flavors and furthermore saving on the cost. Mashed potato flakes to thicken. That's a good point. So that you can have still the thickness of the soup. Yeah, we've mentioned almond milk to substitute the coconut milk.
Just make sure it's not the sweetened type.
Yeah. Sweetened type will provide you extra sugar inside this recipe. So you all got great ideas about how to substituting a recipe and make it on your own, like a unique version of your own. So after discussing ways to plan your grocery before you shop, so it's time to apply your knowledge in a real life scenario. And we can identify the correct answers during the scenario. So Mrs. X is planning on doing grocery shopping for New Year's Eve. He lives alone and usually eats alone. What can he do before go to the stores to save more money? You can choose the answer that you think is correct in the chat box. Is that A or B or C or D? So it's a multiple choice, so you can choose all the answers that are correct. To remind you. Okay, I see people mentioning B and C the most in the chat box. Also A, B, C. So actually, A, B, and C are all good ways that you can save on the food. So asking a friend, shop together, compare the flyers, figure out the menu. They're all good ways that we have discussed previously during our workshop to save more on the budget. But going grocery shopping when you're hungry is something that you want to omit, as you will be ultimately spending more on the groceries. So we come after planning for the groceries. Now we are ready to get to the grocery store. So the first thing first, you want to pay attention to the store layout. That's the way that you can know your stores well to notice where to find what you need. Stores tend to put impulse purchases, such as the candies, soft drinks, and magazine at the cashiers here. to turn waiting time into buying time. This is the most profitable area of the store. You want to stick to your list prepared so that you don't buy extra, which is unnecessary. The top shelf. So after seeing the store layout, we will also want to pay attention to the layout of the shelves. So top shelf will be more of the local niche brands and smaller packages. The bow eyes region, the most reachable region, will be the more popular brands and more advertising. And at the bottom shelf, they usually have the bulky items, larger packages, and store brands. So that's the place we are looking more for the following comparison of the price. So we are starting the process by comparing the different prices. So the first thing to compare is to compare the unit price. So unit pricing is a way to compare the similar products to find the best value. So you can see here, I mentioned the price tag here, the prix unitaire is the unit price. And they usually it's labeled the price per 100 grams of a product. So it's commonly seen in Quebec as it's mandatory, but not always in the other provinces, which is a good thing for us. So we have two products here. Product A is 4 kilograms of rice, a bag, and B is 2 pounds of the 2 pounds of the rice. Please feel free to put in the chat box which product you think will be the cheaper price. Oh, I see people mentioning A.
What is the price for the A and B? Is it 247?
We will reveal the answers after more people have the decisions very soon. Very soon you will see there's a little bit difference between the prices. Anyone more want to take a guess? Okay, it seems like everyone is supporting product A. So actually, let me reveal the answers. So actually for product A, it's having a higher total price compared to product B. But if you are comparing the unit price here is lower than the unit price of product B. So that brings our concern to the buying in bulk. So buying in bulk is a great way to bring down the unit cost and reduce packaging. But it isn't always the better choice for you, as we still need to consider the different factors before buying in bulk. We need space for storing the bulky items. If you're living alone in an apartment, it might be harder to find a place to store the larger items. You may want to also consider the shelf life of the product that you're buying. Can you make it through before its expiry date? And it's harder to transport a large bulky item compared to the smaller ones. So also you want to consider the usefulness of the ingredient. So you want to ask yourself some questions like that. Do I really need a bag of 10 kilo rice? How will I be able to consume it on my own? And when will I be able to consume it up? So it gets back to our topic, plan ahead your grocery list and know what you need. The next thing to compare is buying local and in season. We have a bunch of beautiful asparagus in the middle, and there are different prices in April and November. A and B, which one would you think will have a cheaper price? Everyone is sure about the answer A, the price in April. Does anyone have a different answer?
I just read yesterday that asparagus is vegetables of April, of spring.
Yeah, They're such a nice taste during the springtime. Yes, we all got the right answers. So actually the price in April is half of the price in November. Buying in season not only means that you're saving money, but also means that usually a better quality and a better taste. So we have Equiteur and the Canadian Food Focus. Both have the seasonal calendars for common foods produced in Canada, which we can refer to. Anyone can think of another idea that we can still have the asparagus during winter, the inexpensive versions. Yeah, buying frozen it off. So Mrs. Marie already mentioned that idea in the chat box. Buying frozen if out of season. Yes, that's a good way that you can still enjoy the asparagus during winter with an affordable price. So the next thing to compare is the store brands versus name brands. We have 2 bottles of orange juice here, product A and product B, and you can guess which product will cost less. Yeah, okay. I see nearly everyone is mentioning product A. So the price of product A is actually $1 less compared to product B, which is surprisingly $1 less because it's the same product and same amount of the product you will have with 1 bottle. So sorry for the technical issue. So with the same kind of product, buying in-store brands such as Kirkland at Costco, No Name at Provigo, and Great Value at Walmart could help you bring down the cost of ingredient, but as well providing you similar nutritional values. The next thing we can compare is buying the raw ingredient and starting the recipe from scratch and compare to the pre-prepared products, such as the prepared salads, and also the restaurant food. So actually you can see a huge price difference from the starting point to the product at the restaurant. So buying the raw ingredient and starting everything on your own not only saves your budget, but also corresponds to the idea of Canada Food Guide to limit processed food, as they usually contains more sodium, saturated fat content, and added sugar. So now we are all prepared during our grocery shopping, and we finished our shopping. We are back to the home, and we are getting ready for cooking. So you want to refrigerate or freeze your perishables right away. You don't want to allow your meat, poultry, seafoods, eggs, or other fresh produces to sit at room temperature for more than 2 hours. And keep a food inventory according to the first in, first out rule, which is putting the perishables more available so that you can consume them the most. Properly label your foods with the time of purchase and the name of the produce, and store everything properly with the food wraps and airtight containers, preventing the loss of quality from the foods. So it's the second time we can practice our knowledge with a real life scenario. Mrs. X just has returned from shopping at his favorite store. He bought a family package of ground beef for his party, but he only needs half of it for the recipe. So for the rest of the food, what should he do? You can feel free to put out your answers in the chat box. What do you think is a good way that he can do? I see people mentioning B and C in the chat box. Anyone else would like to share their answers? Okay, so most of us are mentioning B and C. Oh, and your answer is B and A in the chat box. So let me reveal the answers. Actually, B, C, and D are all good options. It's only leaving the food at room temperature, especially when it's ground beef, raw ground beef in the room temperature. Yeah, equals food poisoning. It's making the food dangerous to consume. So if you're still having some extra fresh fruits and vegetables, you don't know what to do with it, we can apply food preserving techniques that will bring a longer shelf life and a safer storage. So some examples could be pickles, sauerkraut, and fruit jams. If you think the cranberry sauce you bought in the store is too sweet, you can have your own version here with our recipe. All you need for it is are apples, any kind except for the green ones. Cranberries can be frozen or fresh, and cinnamon stick, which is optional, plus a bit of patience while cooking, and holiday music to play to bring the holiday vibe. So let's take a look at how to make this recipe. So all you need for this recipe are 7 apples and 12 ounces of cranberry. You want to wash your fruits and your hand properly before using them. You want to peel, remove the seed and core of the apples. For that, you can use your hands and a knife, or you can use a decor tool. And here I'm using Macintosh apples, but you can use any other kinds of the apples. You can even use imperfect apples to save more on the cost of the apples. So step 2 is to cook your apples and the cranberry butter. It's just combining all the fruits and a bit of water and a cinnamon stick in a large saucepan and turn to medium-high heat. Cook with the lid on for 20 minutes. So you want to stir your mixture occasionally so that it doesn't stick to the end of your pot. So after 20 minutes, you take off the lid and cook it on a lower heat for 45 minutes more. And when it's ready, you can puree your mixture. Either use a hand blender or using a mixer like a Vitamix. I use a Vitamix to prepare my mixture. And you can cook for a few more minutes after pureeing the mixture to reach the consistency that you want. And you can taste to decide the optional addition of sugar. Mine is good enough, so I didn't add any sugar. And when it's ready to be put into jars, it looks so nice in both small jars and the large jars as a good gift. You can decorate with some ribbons to make it a nice gift to share with your friends or your family.
Why is it called butter? There was no butter in here.
It's the texture is smooth like a butter.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you can spread it on toast instead of butter.
Okay.
It's a healthier version of the butter you usually have. It's more of like a fruit.
Okay.
Can you use a sugar substitute like stevia? I see someone is asking that in chat box. Yes, you can use a sugar substitute, but just make sure if you're adding it during the cooking, you want to have a heat stable version, the heat stable ones, if you're adding it during the cooking time. But if you add it afterwards, you can have the other ones, it's fine. So the cost per portion for this recipe is $0.96 for half a cup of the apple cranberry butter. And each recipe will provide you with 3 cups in total. And it's a nice recipe that is an excellent source of dietary fiber. And since we are not adding any extra sugar, it doesn't have any extra sugar. It can be considered as a fruit part of our plate. It can be a good combination with the crackers, scones, and cheese with on some biscuits. It's a nice appetizer. Another way to reduce food waste and make the best use of what you have is to repurpose your leftover food and make them shine. There's some helpful resource websites we have here will provide you with inspirations about how to use certain leftovers. By planning them ahead, you're reducing the chance that you need to throw them away and reduce the cost of wasting. So examples could be potato skin crisps and apple skin crisps, as we are peeling off the apple skin from the apples we used for the previous recipe. I have here an example of the leftover bread. How could we repurpose it in different recipes? You can put the answers in the chat box. French toast, yeah, that's a nice idea. It's making its bread soft and tender. What else will you have the idea of using the leftover bread? Bread pudding, that's a good answer. And I myself have the recipe. I bake my leftover bread and putting a bit of the herbs and the spices to combine it as a salad side. So actually, yeah, great for breadcrumbs, croutons. So we prepared here a recipe called overnight breakfast egg casserole. That's actually a great example of how you can use your leftover bread. It is a delicious and affordable dish that uses your leftover wisely. It's easy and you can prepare it beforehand for a holiday brunch or potluck event. It can be made in bulk, so you can share them with your friends and your family. The recipes will be provided to you later. So now let's take a look at how to make this recipe. Those are all the ingredients that you will need for this recipe. Except for the cheeses, we will see in the later of the video. I use a leftover bread here, which was on sale. We start the process by washing our vegetables. So that will be the scallion, the peppers, the mushroom, and the spinach. So we chop our vegetables into the smaller portions to make the saute. We remove the seed and core of the peppers and cut into smaller slices. We also do that with our scallion to chop into the thinner slices. And we have the mushrooms and spinach ready. And now we are ready for the saute. So we start by heating a frying pan over medium-high heat and adding a teaspoon of oil. And starting the process by sauteing the peppers and adding the mushroom afterwards. Saute for 1 to 2 minutes until they're soft and tender, and adding your leafy greens at last so they don't get overcooked. Sauteing for 1 more minute, and now they're ready. You can sit it aside to make sure it's cold enough that it could be mixed with the other ingredients. So we use a large mixing bowl to combine all the ingredients. We add in the milk, 6 eggs, and our choice of protein, I use cooked ham, and the vegetable mix with the seasoning, I use ground mustard, and a bit of cheese. I used cheddar and Swiss cheese. Make sure you're blending the mixture well. And put your tiered bread over the bottom of the container. Make a bread layer. And adding your egg mixture over the top of the bread layer. Spread it evenly with a spatula. And cover it with food wrap and let it soak overnight before you cook it. or at least 1 hour. So after it's ready, let's bake our egg casserole. So we preheat our oven to 350 Fahrenheit. When it's ready, we put in our egg casserole and let it bake for 50 to 60 minutes until the top is golden brown and the eggs are all set. You can see a great leavening of the recipe, and you can see that's a really nice color. So you want to take it out and let it cool for 5 minutes before serving, and you can enjoy it in any different combinations. It's a great recipe for sharing. So for this recipe, each recipe will provide you with 6 squares of the egg casserole, and for each serving is $1.72 for the cost. And it's a great recipe. It's almost like a whole balanced plate. It's providing you with 15 grams of protein and a good amount of calcium, but it's slightly higher in the saturated fat content, which comes from dairy produce that we use. And also the sodium content is slightly higher. So now we have the discussion. What could you do to adjust this recipe to lower its saturated fat content and sodium content? Just as what you will usually do at home. Yeah, lower fat cheeses. As we are making this recipe with the different cheeses, you can use any kind. So you can find the different kinds with a lower overall fat content. And as well, you can use a lower sodium content. Skim milk. Yeah, if you're concerned about the fat content, you can definitely use a skim milk. Here I use 2% of the milk for this recipe in the demonstration. Leave the ham out of the recipe. Yes, ham is providing much of the sodium content. You can substitute it with something else, what you have on hand. Like a cooked chicken breast would be nice. Anyone else have a great idea that you want to share with us? Okay. Okay, so after making this recipe, it's a large amount. You can, if you're tired of eating alone, you can try inviting someone like a friend or your family to dine with you. Since we are eating not only for living, but also to enjoy the food and share the moment with our beloved ones, while food acts as a part of our celebration. You can bring a food item as a gift during the holiday season to a friend and share your enjoyment with them. Or you can plan a potluck event and share the different dishes with your neighbors or your family, so that you can enjoy the different tastes and different flavors from each other. Or you can find a community kitchen group that will provide you the chance of cooking together with someone. So that's our third case scenario. We can identify the correct answers and apply our knowledge from the previous slides. So Mrs. X has a wonderful Christmas dinner with his family. There's a lot of turkey left over. What he can do with that turkey? So we have more options here, A, B, C, D, and E. You can feel free to put in the chat box. Which answers do you think are correct? I see A, B, C, D. That's a really large range of the answers. B, C, D. A, B, C, D. Yeah, actually, so for this scenario, A, B, C, D are all good answers. They are good ways that we can reduce the food waste and use what we have on hand. And surprisingly, for answer C, use the bones to make a stock. That's corresponding to our idea of the coconut curry soup. You can make your homemade stock to make the soup delicious and unique. So to wrap up the ideas we have been discussing in the previous slides, the take-home message would be plan your grocery list before shopping, compare the prices while you are at the stores, share your food with friends and family to enjoy more varieties, and be creative to repurpose your food leftover so that you can reduce the food waste and the cost of wasting. And the most important thing is enjoy the upcoming holidays. And thank you all for attending today's presentation and share with us your great ideas and your thoughts. Anyone has a question at the end of our presentation? It's time for the questions.